Hello, I'm Emily Madison, the founder and executive director of Montessori Collective, a nonprofit organization based in Denver, Colorado. We work to expand access to Montessori in underserved communities. To learn more about that work, visit us at montessori-collective.org. Through our work, we discovered an urgent need for Montessori schools to have a comprehensive and cohesive way to implement science of reading principles within Montessori environments. Many public schools that we work with are required to use a particular reading curriculum that was designed for traditional classrooms. So we began working on a system that would empower Montessori guides to teach the content in the required curriculum in an authentically Montessori way. And this is how the integrated Montessori CKLA scope and sequence was born. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Integrating CKLA into Montessori Environments course and share this work with you. We know that Montessori classrooms across the country are working to align with the principles of the science of reading. And some of you are being required by your state or your district to implement the Core Knowledge Language Arts curriculum, or CKLA, in your Montessori environments, while others of you have chosen CKLA to support your Montessori instruction. To support you and the children you serve, Montessori Collective has created the Integrated Montessori CKLA Scope and Sequence. In this course, you will find the scope and sequence documents and over 200 Montessori-aligned resources, as well as videos explaining how to use the scope and sequence documents and the CKLA skills curriculum. So why do we need an integrated Montessori scope and sequence? First, we know a lot more about how children learn to read than we did even 20 or 30 years ago. Research has conclusively shown that in order to learn to read successfully, children need intensive practice with three key elements: phonemic awareness, phonics decoding, and reading texts in which they apply their decoding skills in context. In fact, if every child were to receive intensive instruction in these three elements, researchers believe that we would be able to reduce the percentage of children with reading difficulties from about 34%, where it is now, to about 5%. Imagine what a difference that would make for children. Maria Montessori had the boldest of visions. She believed the task of education was to give children a vision of the whole universe. Learning to read is what makes Maria's vision for cosmic education possible. And we have an awesome responsibility as educators to make this a reality for all children. The goal of the Integrated Montessori CKLA Scope and Sequence is to implement the content in the CKLA skills curriculum in alignment with Montessori pedagogy. We know that science of reading content is absolutely critical to ensure that children learn to read and can fulfill their cosmic task. At the same time, we want to ensure that we are staying true to Montessori pedagogy and philosophy. Therefore, we have focused on using Montessori materials and practices to teach the content within the CKLA skills curriculum. We've also prioritized individualization and following the child because those are core tenets of Montessori pedagogy. Now let's talk about how the integrated scope and sequence works. We will go into much more detail in the videos within the course, so this is just an overview. First, there are two different formats of the scope and sequence documents. The first is paper-based, and the other is a spreadsheet. You may choose to use one or both, depending on your needs and style. Both of the documents capture all of the content taught in the CKLA skills curriculum, kindergarten through second grade. We have also included Montessori lessons for our 3- and 4-year-olds that prepare children for reading and writing, so that we can see the entire progression, beginning when a child enters a primary classroom. We also have two different versions of the scope and sequence documents, one that aligns to the version of CKLA that is purchased from the publishing company Amplify, and the other that aligns with the free version of the curriculum that can be accessed on the Core Knowledge Foundation's website. Make sure you download the version that aligns with the curriculum you are using. Within the integrated scope and sequence, there are various groups of skills that weave together to support children in learning to read. We refer to these as strands. There are videos throughout this course explaining each of the strands, and children will be working in multiple strands simultaneously. The integrated scope and sequence is organized into sets. Each set represents the content from one unit of CKLA skills, except for sets A and B. These represent an entire year of language learning for our 3 and 4-year-olds. Sets beginning with a K are from the CKLA kindergarten curriculum. Sets that begin with a 1 are from first grade, and sets that begin with a 2 are from second grade. Each set contains multiple strands. For example, in this set, K7, in the kindergarten curriculum, includes phonics, writing, puzzle words, grammar and language, and reading and comprehending. Unlike a traditional classroom where the entire class progresses from unit to unit together, the integrated scope and sequence allows children to progress from set to set at their own pace, just as they progress through the lessons in our Montessori albums. Although children progress through the sets at their own pace, we need to know when a child is not making adequate progress to meet grade level expectations by the end of the year. Remember that in order for children to access Maria Montessori's vision of cosmic education, they have to be able to read. Therefore, each set includes a time frame. We know that time frames sometimes make Montessorians uncomfortable. However, these timeframes are especially important for our children from marginalized communities who have historically been underserved by the educational system. These timeframes don't dictate exactly when children learn a particular skill. They just indicate the latest time a set of skills should be mastered to be considered on track. For example, children should master the content in set K.7 no later than the end of February of their kindergarten year. Many children in Montessori environments will work ahead of this time frame. If a child is falling behind these milestones, we need to work with our school teams to examine our environments and adult actions in order to better support the child. Now let's look at the different formats of the integrated scope and sequence. Both versions contain the same information, just in different formats, and both can be used for record keeping. The spreadsheet format is helpful for viewing multiple children at the same time. Also, each strand has its own tab, which you can see here along the bottom, so you can see the progression of the entire strand in one sheet. For example, in this phonics tab, I can scroll across to view all of the phonics skills from the kindergarten curriculum through second grade. Up here at the top, we can see the time frame for each set is noted, and each set is color-coded. As children progress through the scope and sequence, you can use the drop-down options in each cell to note when children are ready for a lesson, when the lesson has been introduced, when you have observed the child practicing the lesson, and when you have observed that they are independent with that skill. Columns with assessments are color-coded orange. Progression within a set may not be perfectly linear, which we will explain in the phonics strand videos. But once a child has demonstrated independence with all of the skills in a set, they should be given a proof of mastery assessment. If they demonstrate mastery on this assessment, they are ready to move on to the next set within that strand. So if children demonstrate mastery on these assessments, then we would then move on to set K5. Not all sets have proof of mastery assessments, so in that case, you would just use observation to determine when children have demonstrated mastery of skills in a particular set. When you enter a score in a proof of mastery column, it will change colors to reflect the child's level of mastery. If they have demonstrated mastery, the cell will turn green, indicating that they are ready to move on to the next set. We have also included columns for demographic information so that you can sort your data in the spreadsheet. The demographic information includes name, grade level, race or ethnicity based on the child's federal designation, and the MLL column is an abbreviation for multilingual learner, which some schools also call English language learners or children acquiring English as an additional language. We prefer the term multilingual learner because it honors the rich language repertoire that children bring with them. Finally, there's a column labeled IEP, which stands for Individualized Education Plan. The spreadsheet also serves as an excellent communication tool between classroom teachers, interventionists, special education teachers, and any other adults who are supporting children, because they can see what each child is working on and reinforce those concepts. Now let's discuss the paper-based version. To use this format, you would print one copy for each child in your class, which can be placed in individual folders. The document is over 100 pages long, so you could opt to only print the pages that the children in your classroom will need immediately, and then add pages to the folder as needed. Alternatively, you could print the entire document with the understanding that it will stay with the child for multiple years. If you go this route, you could remove completed pages and send them home as a way to communicate progress with families. With the paper-based version, sets are grouped together. There's also space to record the dates when you introduce a lesson, when you observe children practicing, and when you observe them reach independence. Once children have reached independence with all of the skills in this phonics set, you'll see a proof of mastery assessment at the bottom, along with the score that indicates that the child has reached mastery. At the bottom of the strand set, it will indicate where to go next after the child has demonstrated mastery. For example, we can see after the child has demonstrated mastery on this phonics set, we are going to go to phonics set K.8. These are linked within the document so that you can quickly move between sets. One of the beautiful things about the paper-based version is that children can have ownership of their learning. In lower elementary, they can use it to create work plans, and they can also record when they have practiced a particular skill. They can also see the progress they have been making as they master more and more skills. Also, just like the spreadsheet version, the paper-based document can also serve as a communication tool between adults. If a teacher notes that they have given a child a particular lesson, the following day when the reading interventionist comes to work with that child, they could reinforce that particular skill. This creates more continuity and cohesion for children, and ultimately leads to deeper learning. Thank you for taking the time to engage in this course and further prepare yourself to serve all children.